greatest fights of all time, in every fight that's ever happened. But you look at those two separately, and you know, it wasn't their night tonight, and it wasn't an exciting fight.
Yeah, I thought I would win against Anthony, but here I am with a broken jaw, learning the hard way. I'll heal.
Because what just happened, what you just saw was, yes, Jake Paul finding out there's levels to this game. Yes, Anthony Joshua not having the greatest performance of all time, but him doing exactly what he had to do, what he needed to do for boxing, what he needed to do for
The internet erupted the instant Jake Paul crashed to the canvas in his long-rumored showdown with Anthony Joshua. And almost immediately, attention shifted to Dana White, the UFC president, who has spent years dismissing Paul as a carefully manufactured boxer, didn't need to say much at all. A knowing smirk, a few blunt, no-nonsense remarks, and the message was clear. As elite heavyweight power finally met YouTube hype, Dana White looked completely vindicated, while Jake Paul's confidence turned into a brutal reality check, witnessed by millions around the world.
Calf kick, you know, the whole first round. He couldn't have had a better first round, and then he got caught.
Do you feel it's one of those things where, like, he got caught, or is it one of those things where Handman age might be catching up to him, he might be slowing down? Which one do you think it could be?
Since Anthony Joshua brutally stopped Jake Paul in the 6th round of their heavyweight clash, the combat sports world hasn't stopped buzzing. The loss sent Paul straight to the hospital, where doctors confirmed a broken jaw and multiple facial fractures. The damage was so severe that Jake Paul later underwent surgery, requiring titanium plates and the removal of several teeth. A shocking aftermath that underscored just how unforgiving elite heavyweight power can be.
For my own credibility, I've got to knock you out, but I've got to try and knock you out where I'm not hurting you as much as what I could if I unleashed. Yeah. And with the punch you said that he landed, it's not his best punch,
it's
his most powerful punch, right? Yep. And he's shattered his jaw in 2 places, right? So Anthony Joshua gets his 70 million, whatever it is. But I think he's sitting there thinking, thank God for that. Thank God. On a human level, I've come out, all right, I've sort of, not reputation, but I haven't hurt him as bad as what I could have.
There should be an awful amount of people breathing a massive sigh of relief. Anybody that put that fight together, athletic commissions, like you said.
It wasn't a fight.
No, it wasn't at all. Like you said, it was a prize fight. It was an event. If Anthony damages him, he's got to live with that for the rest of his life.
Absolutely.
That's a lot of stress to deal with, you know what I mean? So I'm sure he's bleeding the side of relief. The team that have put him in there, that have negotiated that for him, but the authorities that put that on and commissioned it as a proper boxing match, I've no doubt.
Does that go on his... Because
yeah, it's a professional boxing
Do you know what? If I was Anthony Joshua, I would be saying, I don't want that on my record. But for the credibility of them putting the fight on, they would have said to him, no, we've got to say this. It's been commissioned. It's going to be a proper fight. And I found it... I love my boxing, but I just find the whole thing really, really unedifying. You said about get followers. You mentioned Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is nowhere near his level of getting like a British title fight or whatever. Nowhere near. So it's basically he's like...
Beat Jake Paul.
Well, beat Jake Paul. But so
but what I'm saying is that that's 100. I stand by that, and I think Tommy would admit that. You know what I mean? To become a British champion is a very prestigious thing to do, and I think he would struggle to do that.
But I think when I was reading,
Scans and X-rays later revealed that Jake Paul's jaw had been broken in 2 separate places, a serious injury known as a double fracture. Despite the damage, Paul reportedly drove himself to the hospital after the fight, where doctors officially confirmed the diagnosis. His recovery was estimated at 4 to 6 weeks, and Paul later took to social media to share images of the scans, confirm the fractures, and thank fans for their support. UFC President Dana White had long warned that the matchup was a bad idea, repeatedly arguing that Paul was outmatched against a decorated former heavyweight champion. For many observers, Joshua's knockout served as validation of that stance. White even joked that much of the fight's appeal came from fans wanting to see Paul finally get stopped, a comment that reinforced his long-standing skepticism about Paul's place at the highest level of professional boxing.
Oh, Jesus. That's a fucking bad idea. That's a bad idea. But let me tell you what, a lot of people watch that one.
Will you watch it?
Sure. You know what everybody's tuning in for on that one.
Analysts are now branding the entire build-up and aftermath as a real-life Tom and Jerry show, arguing the ending was inevitable from the moment the fight was announced. Insiders say Jake Paul spent months playing the loud, cartoonish provocateur, while Anthony Joshua stayed silent, calculated, and patient, like a predator waiting for the moment to strike. Once the bell rang, the comedy ended quickly. Joshua's power, timing, and ring IQ completely overwhelmed Paul, producing a knockout that shocked casual viewers, but surprised no serious boxing analysts.
Great performance by Jake, brother.
Come on, bro. He's a fucking legend for that. He has such big balls getting in the ring with that guy, dude. Josh was a monster. He stayed in it the whole time, and I'm really proud of Jake, dude. All my respect to him, bro. Whatever outcome. I mean, dude, he went 6.5 rounds with Anthony Joshua, one of the best in the world. So I got nothing but respect.
And got up like 2 times?
No, it was sick.
Talk about that. I mean, there's been other heavyweights that have felt that right hand who haven't got up.
Nagano, so many people, bro. The overhand right. Jake's got a tough chin, dude. I think he does whatever he wants after this. He just has such big balls, dude. He had to keep moving. That was the only strategy. People are gonna say he ran around the ring. They don't know. They don't understand fucking boxing.
He showed a ton of heart, right?
Ton of heart.
Legendary trainer Teddy Atlas stunned the boxing world by outlining a potential, albeit unlikely, path for Jake Paul to upset Anthony Joshua. Atlas leaned on a familiar boxing truth: styles make fights. He suggested Paul could exploit his youth, quicker feet, and constant movement to frustrate Joshua, especially if Joshua's timing or mindset slipped after past layoffs and defeats. According to Atlas, Paul's best chance wouldn't come from trading power, but from survival and disruption, circling the ring, using lateral movement, stealing rounds, and striking with a surprise right hand whenever Joshua overcommits. It wouldn't be pretty, and it wouldn't be dominant, but Atlas believes a tactical, evasive approach over 8 rounds could have created chaos, and possibly delivered one of the most shocking upsets in modern boxing history.
News that broke out, and it's someone that you've always shown respect to, and I've asked you these questions before about Jake Paul. We had a surprise announcement just the other day about him and Anthony Joshua. What was your reaction when you saw that announcement? It shocked a lot of people in boxing. What did you make of that, or what do you make?
Jake hasn't made too many mistakes so far, so it got my attention. It got Teddy's attention. He's been growing. He's been growing in the ring. He's been growing outside the ring. He's been growing in confidence. I think that in the Canelo situation, that didn't happen. He was ready to do that. I think if anything else, if nothing else, he's showing you that he truly is believing in himself. And that, he's been a work in progress. He still is. And he's showing you, he's putting his money where his mouth is. Everyone's calling for him to do this, to do that. And, he's always had the advantage with guys that weren't real fighters. They were fighters. They were older fighters. They were MMA fighters. They were this. They were that. They were smaller. They were older. Now he's taking a guy that's bigger, older, but bigger. A real, can't debate if he's a fighter. 2-time heavyweight champ. Coming off, but he's a smart son of a gun. He's a gutsy son of a... I always stood up for him because everyone was saying he was hurting the sport. He wasn't hurting the sport. In some ways, he was bringing interest in a different way to the sport.
The bout, officially billed as Judgment Day, was scheduled for 8 3-minute rounds in the heavyweight division. Anthony Joshua entered as a massive favorite, backed by his elite experience, towering 6 feet 6 inches frame, and a clear size advantage, weighing in at 243 pounds compared to Jake Paul's roughly 216. After a few cautious early rounds, Joshua began to assert full control. In the 5th, he dropped Paul multiple times, breaking him down with pressure and power. Then, early in the 6th round at the 131 mark, Joshua sealed it, landing a crushing right hand that sent Paul crashing to the canvas and forced the referee to wave it off, ending the fight in brutal fashion.
Paul was sturdy for the first couple of rounds, but as the fight went on, the more experienced Joshua began to take control. After continuously connecting in the 5th round, it was only a matter of time before it was over. In the 6th, Joshua went on to knock out Paul with a big right hand. Joshua improved his career record to 29-4 now. Paul loses for the 2nd time in his career to go along.
Jake Paul showed durability in the opening rounds, but as the fight progressed, Anthony Joshua's experience began to take over. By the 5th round, Joshua was consistently finding his target, and it became clear the end was near. In the 6th, Joshua delivered the inevitable, a thunderous right hand that knocked Paul out cold. With the win, Joshua improved his professional record to 29-4. Paul, meanwhile, suffered just the 2nd loss of his career, falling to 12 wins overall. Former UFC champion Daniel Cormier, who had voiced skepticism before the bout, later echoed what many analysts believed all along. Cormier stated there was never a realistic path for Jake Paul to beat Joshua, though he did credit Paul's toughness for lasting into the later rounds. According to Cormier, Joshua effectively carried Paul to the 6th before ending it the only way it ever could, with a punch, noting that the gap in skill and power made the knockout inevitable, even as Paul showed heart by surviving as long as he did.
Some people believe in fairy tales. Whoever believed that Jake Paul was going to win, that was an absolute fairy tale. I've got a friend in a group message that said, I just put $20 on Jake Paul to win. I was like, bro, you just wasted your money. There was never a world in which Jake Paul was going to beat Anthony Joshua. It was always a matter of how the fight would end. So I watched all the pundits talking about the fight. Even Rosendo, my boxing coach, I was like, does Anthony Joshua represent boxing? Everybody from that world felt like Anthony Joshua was representing boxing. And as the fight started to go on, first off, he was representing boxing, so they wanted him to get the job done. All right, first and foremost. You can't lose to a guy that's perceived to be a YouTuber, even though today, Jake Paul is more boxer than YouTuber. I've said this time and time again. When you have resources, when you can spend $1 million a year on training camps, housing, food, coaches, this is not recreational anymore. He's a boxer. He's just not a boxer at that level. I ran into his brother in New York City, and I said to Logan, what parameters are in place, Logan? What safeguards do they have to make sure that Anthony Joshua doesn't hurt your brother? He said there are none. He goes, they're going to just straight fight. So in that regard, you got to give credit.
Logan Paul ignited debate after the fight by claiming his brother Jake may have won as many as 4 rounds before the knockout. Speaking emotionally in the aftermath, Logan argued that Jake was competitive early, using movement and defense to limit damage while Anthony Joshua took time to settle into his rhythm. While most official scorecards and analysts strongly disagreed with that assessment, Logan maintained that fans were underrating how well Jake survived and managed to steal moments during the opening half of the bout.